There are no such things as limits or obstacles, only opportunities. Step into the greatest version of yourself because what you do matters. Shift your narrative. You're listening to Opportunity Makers, where entrepreneurs come to take their purpose-driven business to the next level. Here's your host, Jim Padilla.
Hey, my friend, welcome back to another awesome episode of the Opportunity Makers podcast. And boy, do I have somebody who's an opportunity maker to talk to today. Not like all the others I've been talking to and bringing to you are not. These people, everybody I'm bringing to you is, as they say, kicking ass and taking names, right? People doing things at another level, scaling, exiting, building, creating. It's exciting. It's an incredible place to be. I'm so privileged and honored to be able to be in network and in community with so many of these amazing people that I get to see on a regular basis, do business with, learn from, work with, and share experiences with you. Notice none of them are here to sell you anything. None of them are here to pitch their stuff to you. They're genuinely here. They know we talked before they get here to talk to on this podcast that we are here sharing encouragement, insights, and hope, and helping you see that people who move at different levels start seeing things differently, right? We're not looking around seeing what the sky is falling or stressing out about where's my next deal coming from, et cetera. We're really looking at, what's coming down the road. What are we doing to make exponential jumps, right? How are we making leaps, not just incremental steps of success and growth? Well, that's great. You need to work on money now, but you also got to be thinking about how can I make quantum leaps and exponential jumps in success, because it has never been easier to do that in the history of the world than it is today, right now, at the time and date of this podcast being executed and recorded, that those opportunities are everywhere. You just have to see them. You have to keep your eyes above the riffraff and above the fray and keep focusing on where you're going and what is there, because when you do, you will see all kinds of opportunities coming. And when you start working with people who are doing things at a bigger scale, playing a bigger game, it's even greater opportunities, because quite honestly, there's just a lot less competition at that level. So you're not clamoring and making a bunch of noise. You're just looking for quality, powerful, synergistic relationships for people who want to do exponential things to serve problems with the people you care about in common. That's the name of the game. And that's the game that Maria Simone is playing. Right? Maria and her husband, Chad, they're leaders. They're change makers. They are transformational agents. They are transcendental meditation experts and teachers. They are business experts. They are strategists, and they are faith-filled, badass entrepreneurs that understand that changing the lives of people, changing the world for people, changes the world in general. And that's the way this goes. And Maria is somebody that I was blessed to know in a mastermind about 8 years ago. And we've, stayed in touch and connections. We've referred clients. We've made introductions for people. And, we've stumbled into another mastermind environment that we are in right now over the last year and a half or so, going on 2 years now. And I've witnessed just the exponential leaps and jumps that she has done in her business and all the things they are doing, from the tiny homes to capital to things and making huge inroads in health and medicine space, and much, much more. And you're going to really enjoy this. And what I want you to think about, yes, you're going to learn some tangible tactics and ideas, but I want you to just capture the way she thinks. I say this often a lot. So many times when I'm talking to people about sales training or strategies or scaling or building things, too many times people are like, well, what did you say? I got to capture what you said there. What was that? It's like, don't capture what I said. Capture who I was being when I said it. Just, if you want to replicate, don't replicate the words I say, replicate the intention, the intensity, the energy that I bring to the things that I say, right? And that's one of the things that I want to implore with you all the time. Every time you're listening to all these world-class experts, don't dial in so much to what they're saying, but what perspective they're bringing with the words that they're saying. Who is she being? How is she seeing the world that is bringing these particular words to the conversation? Because you learn an immense, this is a masterclass in opportunity creating by listening in to Maria Simone with ZenMoose Capital and their Tiny Homes USA. So really enjoy this episode. Make sure you share with anybody that it makes sense. Just share it for me. Let us know what's going on. Listen to this thing. You're probably going to want to listen to it twice. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Jump in the show notes. There's a lot of goodies in there for you. And make sure you reach out to follow Maria, because you'll be glad that you did. All right. Appreciate your time, effort, and energy here. Make sure that you enjoy. And if you're listening on the treadmill or while you're driving, then just bookmark it and make sure that you go back and listen to it again, because you're probably going to want to take some notes and start changing the way you think about certain things. All right. We'll see you soon. Enjoy the episode. Hey there, world changers and opportunity makers. So good to have you back here. And as you just heard, the official bio and introduction, as always, but want to have you hear from Maria herself. Maria, would you just tell in your own words who you are and why you're relevant in this conversation?
Okay, well, first of all, people call me the soul and money catalyst for however many hundreds of years since I've been in the entrepreneurial space. I've always looked at, I love the idea of being an entrepreneur, of taking something, an idea, and just crystallizing it and taking it out to the market. But I'm very well aware of all the other factors that go into it. It's your mindset. It's your own sense of, how healthy you are emotionally and everything to be able to ride that wave. And so I just love all of it. I love the journey mostly. And I think people just get too hung up on that end game, but I really take the time to enjoy the journey. Not so much enjoy it all the time, so it can be harrowing. But that's kind of me. I love, I incorporate transformation and business. I see money as a spiritual energy. I love to see it circulated into its highest and best use. So I've tended to focus on mostly the financial and capital aspects of building business. I like that part. Like you put together sales plans, I put together capital plans for a business and taking a product out there. So those are kind of the things that I'm into right now. Well, that's about me.
It's funny because I remember at one of the BA events you were talking, and I remember that was one of the notes that I wrote down that just burned in my brain. What you were talking about was, do you have a capital strategy and a capital plan? Because and most people don't. It occurred to me that I didn't. No, it's like the things that people don't think about. It's like they think about where they're going to get capital, what they're going to do with it, but do you actually have a strategy and a plan? For how you're going to, and so that what opportunities are the right ones and what things are coming your way, which partners to find, and which there's so many things that opens you up to. But, I've had the pleasure of knowing you for, it's been a while now, about 8 years, I think, or so. And you have just come so far. You've done so many amazing things, and it's been fun to watch and witness. And just, it makes you a person that I want to be around, because I want to see that stuff's happening. And, and proximity is everything. How do I learn from it? How do I benefit from it? How can I contribute to it? What things have you learned about, the ease and grace and the way that opportunities can come to you, even if you're not necessarily winning at a huge level right now?
Yeah, that's really great. Our main thing is ZenMoose Capital. And so we've been building a social impact fund, and we have multiple businesses, but, probably the most exquisite example of what you're asking about is our latest venture is United Tiny Homes. We started that during COVID, and what you're saying is so important to how we came to be where we're at. But during COVID, I was really concerned about the affordable housing crisis and homelessness and all of that. And I totally got a download that tiny homes was an agile solution to affordable housing. And so I didn't know a lot about tiny homes. And so number one, you don't always have to know the how. You don't have to know, you have to be an expert in something. But if you see a problem and a solution, you have a solution to, or you're thinking about a solution, go for it. Because there's something about the universe, about God, about divine inspiration. Like if you're on that path, you're going to be brought all the resources. So I just put a business plan together for it. And then out of the blue, an old friend called and said, "Hey, I know you do financing. Do you do financing for tiny homes, or thinking about starting a tiny home company?" And I was like, seriously, like we just put a plan together for this. And so we joined forces, with someone. And so the other part of it is you're not alone. So we all were seasoned professionals. We saw an opportunity, but we know our genius lane. So we really made sure that, we had our own expertise in this, and we filled in the gaps with support. So never do this alone. You can't, there's so many aspects of, being in business and taking advantage of an opportunity and going forward. You don't have to go it alone. I mean, I don't know how to build a tiny home. So of course, we have a whole build team. I mean, they barely would let me hold a well torch, let alone whatever. It would be a mess. but I saw the vision and I put the business together. And my domain is in business development. So we brought a lot of business very quickly, funding. So we were able to not only finance the business, but we put the capital plan together. So we made sure that as we were growing, we were able to access resources. And that actually is key. So within our first 2 days in business, we took in about $1 million and $1.25 million in orders. I remember 17 deposits. We didn't even have, like, we had just incorporated the day before, seriously. And we had 17 deposits, over $1 million in business. We're like, oh my God, okay, I guess we have to build the business now, so it didn't stop us. And we serviced for the next few months, we serviced that business, and then we doubled that revenue. And now 2 years into it, a little over 2 years, seriously, like May 1st of 2021 was our launch. So we're just a little over 2 years. We're servicing about $100 million in orders right now. It'll take us a couple of years, but that's what's happening. So we just kept stepping into the opportunities. And also another thing that happens is, not knowing the how. So we made sure we had experts around us to support us. And also money is a really big deal with entrepreneurs. I can't afford this. I can't afford to do the marketing. I can't afford to hire people. And so they tend to do all the jobs, right, Jim? Like, people do jobs in their businesses that they would get fired from in other places. And that is going to take you down. And so we just took the time to bring in a little capital. There's plenty of money out there. The money hasn't left the planet, I always say. And if you take the time to, let other people show you the how, build a team of supporters that can open doors and understand how to bring in the financial resources, which I think is really critical, you're going to be unstoppable. So that's kind of what we did over the last couple of years. And it's been beautiful. We've got plenty of business. We're we're truly a solution to the affordable housing crisis. We're working with the VA. We're like in the next year, we'll be able to accept VA financing, which to me is a big deal. We can build parks for veterans and, less fortunate, those who are less fortunate. And yeah, so it's been quite a ride, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. I love that whole perspective that they won't even let you hold the torch, right? It's like they don't want you building the homes. I'm good at sales and I'm good at building business. I know a lot about business. My team doesn't want me. I've been kicked out of so many meetings. They don't. If I'm in the middle of how all this stuff happens, I'm screwing it up. They want me to be casting the vision, speaking on stages, networking with other millionaires and billionaires, and they don't want me in the business running the day to day. Right, because that's their job.
But that is actually, I find, because when I talk to people, I think that is one of the biggest bottlenecks for entrepreneurs, is to get over the fact that they don't have to know the how and they don't have to do all the jobs. Like, unless they can, like, how many people do you find that go into something and then they start getting all these certifications, right? And they start learning how to build websites. It's like, oh my gosh, really? It's going to take you years and years to build this business. You don't have the time for that.
Peter Swain, and he was just, interviewed a couple episodes ago. But I jumped into his AI mastermind because I wanted to get some insights.
Right.
Then at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not the one doing this stuff. I'm not building pages and marketing and what my team is. So, now my team goes to the recordings and watches the recordings, and he's just opened that up there for the assistants. And too many times we do that, like, oh, let me learn this. And that's not where you're making your millions. That's not where you're changing the world. But you got to be able to trust. You have the vision is what is the important part. And then you attract the people who can help fulfill it.
Yeah. And not to say that you shouldn't know, like, you had an awareness of AI, you have an awareness of everything. You just don't have to, you got to recognize where you before you go down that rabbit hole of doing it all, that's when you start, putting the right people in the right place. But that is, I think that's a key to really being able to take off and scale. Scaling is, look, it's easy to make money. A lot of people have like one windfall, they'll do one thing and make some money. But to be able to scale, to consistently do that and scale, that's like a whole other skill set and, mindset for people. So that's the next block I think people have.
You and Chad have been head down, just growing and rocking and rolling with all you're doing. You ever stop a minute and take a look at how many lives you're impacting right now? With all
Yeah, I'm like on it's like driving us. I'm at a point where there's probably less in front of me behind me. I mean, I just turned 60 and I love what I'm doing. And this is my legacy work. So the things that I'm doing now, I understand that I'm impacting lives like well beyond people knowing me and also even my lifetime. And that's a really beautiful thought. If nothing else like that, that's a beautiful, like if you can get your arms around that and let that drive you, it really, it takes you very far in that.
I think that's the big heartbeat of a lot of the people who tune into this. People who are in our world, they want accelerated growth at massive scale, but they want huge impact. They want to leave. They have a burning desire to impact a lot more people and have a result that's far bigger than them. And too many times we're so focused on the how that we forget. We get, instead of just taking our hands off of a little bit so we're not choking it to death, but that we're just allowing things to occur that are going to lead in that direction.
You have to create some space. You're right. You have to, you can't just be in the busyness doing. Sometimes you have to pull back a little bit. You have to create some space. You have to see who else needs to step in, what needs to evolve. Because you get to there's also, you start doing certain things and it gets you to certain points, but then you're active, like what got you here now is not going to get you there. So there are certain points where you have to allow for like a quantum leap, like some type of transformation in the business. And I think that's another important distinction is you do need to step back and create that space. And honestly, Jim, if you don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, like if it's just about the money or it's just about whatever, oh my gosh, that you will take yourself down. You'll start self-sabotaging if you don't have a really firm, why am I doing this? Because it gets hard. There's like points where you just want to curl up under the covers and like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? So you've got to have something really strong to keep you going.
Well, let's take a little pivot here and talk about, the name of the company is ZenMoose Capital. So
that's my mothership. Yeah.
Yeah. So that would have to be, you have to be a little bit out of touch to not recognize there's some spiritual element here. Right. So, what role does spirituality and divinity play in your business growth and strategy?
It's like everything. It's I am very okay, when I was younger, when I was 5 years old, I was paralyzed from the neck down and all I could do was turn my head. And it was a painful experience. I was a little girl. And one night I was laying in my little, those little white princess canopy beds. I was laying in my little canopy bed and my canopy started moving and then it became billowing. And like Angel Gabriel presented like right in front of me. And he said, it was really amazing. And he said, you're not going to die. You have great things to do. Get up, get up. So ever since, and I had like a spontaneous healing. I started moving like the next day and it was quite something. And so all my life I had this knowing, number one, I'm very connected to God, source and angels and all that. So I totally get that. Like I'm not alone. I've never felt alone, number one. And that's really important. And number two, I have great things to do, right? And I was never attached to launching a widget. Some people have like a burning desire to do like one thing. I've never had that in my life. I've always had like the sense of being the best person I can, putting love out there in the world, like helping other people, like that's my great work. So I don't know, that's always, to me, that's very driving. And if I'm not connected to that, I just feel like it's soul crushing. Like I had a really successful career in healthcare. I was a pioneer in home health, and I co-authored legislation in the state of Arizona or statutes or whatever. Like I did a lot in my industry. And then it was like, okay, why am I doing this? Like after a while, I was like, I just got burnt out and my soul wasn't being filled. I felt like I wasn't helping enough people. And that's like a very distinct feeling for me. I just get disconnected to that divinity, the spirituality, and I have to get back to that. So yeah, it's really everything, because if you don't have that, entrepreneurship is hard. Solving problems is hard. I mean, hard, like when you're innovating and you're doing things that other people aren't doing and you have a vision that nobody else has yet, you're the one that you have to drive it, until people join you. And so you've got to stay in that place where you're going to be unstoppable. So whatever that takes, it's usually faith for people, a solid why, like whatever that takes, stay there, because you'll never fail. You'll never fail. If you could stay there, if you could just be unstoppable, everything will always come together for you. So yeah, ZenMoose Capital, we are building a very innovative fund. It's not about taking in outside capital. We don't use capital. We're able to take restricted stock, which is the stock that's when someone takes a company public, their stock is very restricted because they don't want to be perceived as dumping in the market if they go to sell their stock. So it's a very high, you can imagine there's a few of these people on the planet. And so we work with them and they can exchange their stock into our fund, but we have ways of monetizing it that they don't. And so it's a very innovative approach. But what we're doing with the money is we take care of them, but we also use that, we redeploy what's left over of capital, of cash now, into purposeful projects, in philanthropy and things like that. So it's very innovative. The Zen comes from our Chad and I, our background and just enlightenment. It's just being, he's an old time, we're both TM, transcendental meditation people. He was the youngest teacher of TM on the planet. We adopt that philosophy. And then the Moose, for me, we incorporate the Moose singularity, and it's how we build businesses. Moose is plural and singular. So at the same time, so when we're helping companies, they still maintain their unique identities, but we bring them into this collective where we're all helping each other. We collaborate, we cross-pollinate talent, resources. Some people have these amazing technologies, but don't have customers. Some people have a big, platform, but they need technology, and we can cross-pollinate, for all of that. And so, that's part of our ZenMoose persona. So anyway, but you're right. There is this, we always like to have that spiritual influence in there.
Yeah, I have found over the years, it's interesting because my spirituality was always, I didn't meet God till I was like 27. So it wasn't part of my upbringing. And as I have grown, I've had this personal relationship with God, but it's always been private. And then in the last several years, it's been more public. It's been like me sharing my faith journey with people and in our business too. And the thing that I have learned is that without exception, everybody who's playing what I would call a bigger game, anybody who's really successful, making impact and scale, everybody's got a spiritual drive of some kind.
Yeah, right? I agree. I do know there's a couple of, in fact, they're very, they're actually well known. I won't name names, but you would know who they were. And I've had a chance to speak to them, and they're completely agnostic. And so they don't have that in them. However, they are driven by, but they're geniuses and visionaries. And so they're driven by solving problems on the planet. So they don't, like keeping the population alive. So they're driven by something else. So maybe that is, but so without exception, I'm with you. People have to have some kind of underlying spiritual influence, something other than them, that's driving them.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because even if they're agnostic, this is their religion. This becomes
right.
their go-to around it. So this is what their faith play is. But it's fascinating. So what do you see right now with all of the craziness in the marketplace? What do you see as the smartest opportunities for people to be looking for, without taking crazy risk, but as the economy is doing crazy things? What should people be looking for?
Yeah, it's really, we spend a lot of time doing that because as we build our fund, we have to, preserve it. And so it's a combination of, I think people should be investing in themselves. I think you're the best investment there is. So there should be a fraction of, whatever you have, maybe a third or something should be into yourself, this is a good time to build businesses. Like right now, we have people wanting to invest in their different projects because they want to move cash out of the banks and things like that. So they would rather have it in companies that they know are winning and growing. And so this is actually a good time to raise capital, by the way. It's really amazing what we're finding. I think that's why we're pushing our initiative. Like we have multiple businesses and we're moving everything forward. I think keep some as safe as possible in certain instruments. Although I don't know about, the bonds and things like that. Like look for instruments that put things away that are safe. We have, just, make sure you're diversified. So there's and I forgot my rule. I'm getting my rules, but it's like a quarter. No, it's a third, and then we split it up into different things. But we have our own rules, but take the time to do some diversification, get comfortable with at least one strategy that you can really get your arms around and feel good about, and kind of, stick with it. I don't think going in and out of things is, I'm not into that. You know what I mean? I like to, I'm more of a long-term person. We have a couple of short-term things that we do, like in crypto and things like that, but I'm kind of a long-term, like I'm really into business development right now, but not just businesses that are serving a real purpose on the planet, that are directly involved in solving problems. I think those are your best investments. And that's where I'm putting my time and money for the most part. So, and I don't know if that makes any sense, but
that makes great sense. And, my encouragement to that for you listening, you might be thinking, I don't have any money to park. I'm just trying to survive. And right now, but investment doesn't always come in the form of money. Right. You can invest time, you can invest connections. If you see a cause that's worthy, you can still connect somebody who can support that cause, and you're providing solutions and contribution to those causes. You can volunteer, you can intern. There's so many ways that you can support a cause that matters. And the right opportunities and the right doors.
And Jim, there's not, and when you say cause, I mean, it's not, we're not talking about just like volunteering for nonprofits. You can actually work with up and coming companies. And I created a whole portfolio of stock doing this. Work with people. You may not have the money to invest, but you're right. Invest your time, some resources, some connections in companies that you think are, making a difference. They're really strong. There are people helping us right now with the tiny home company because they totally get what we're doing. They see all the traction, and they're investing their time and energy. And guess what? They're going to get stock. They're going to get, they'll get paid. Like there are things that they're going to benefit from. And so I did this when I was starting out, and it taught me how to raise capital. It created a portfolio of stock for me in up and coming companies, and I didn't invest money. And I created income because in making the connections, I was paid. So that is a great, yes, that's a great distinction. Highly recommend it.
So what would you say are things that people should be very cautious of right now? If they're moving in the marketplace or looking at opportunities, what things would you be cautious or at least apprehensive? Do your diligence before you move in these areas.
So did you say cautious of right now? And as far as what market? Like
just in the marketplace in general, as people are trying to look for companies to invest in, business ideas to start, what things would you probably stay away from just because they're too risky right now?
Okay, so that's a great answer. And we do that we vet projects all day long. So number one, it's the people. You could have the best idea, but if the people that you're investing in aren't open, you don't see them as being open and coachable, because sometimes we ask CEOs, like if they're, if they'll move over, if they're not the best, entrepreneurs don't make the best CEOs, so got to make sure that the people are open and coachable, that they have the experience to do what they say they're going to do, because that's a big problem. People step into something just because you invented something or have an idea for something doesn't make you the best person to do that. So I would say vet your people, spend time with the people you're going to invest in, make sure there's some protection, make sure whatever you're going to invest in is not, can't be easily copied or will go away or, whatever. And then they have an opportunity to have enough gas in the engine, like that they really are going to have enough money to make a go of it. I find that entrepreneurs don't raise enough capital. They run out of steam too early. They don't protect their IP enough. So I think that's really important. And then also something that easily, like you can create a movement out of, like it can become bigger than you. It's not just a widget that you're going to sell. Like there's something behind it. Some of the best advice I got as far as branding and taking a company out, you can appreciate this, Jim, was one of my mentors was Nick Graham. And I don't know if you remember the Joe Boxer brand. Remember the silky underwear? And I mean, that was like a crazy successful brand. He built it and sold it for hundreds of millions of dollars to Kmart in the 80s. So I tracked him down because I wanted his mentoring, because years ago I started a fashion accessory company and I wanted his support. And so some of the best advice he gave me, he goes, look, he goes, your brand is an amusement park. Okay. Think of your brand as the amusement park. Your product is just a souvenir. Mm-hmm. So whatever you do, you've got to create some type of an experience for people. His name is Nick Graham, and I always used to say that. So like that, he's known for saying that. That was like the best advice. So I always look at people that, if they have a product or a service, like I don't want to just launch it into a nothingness. I want to make sure we can incorporate some type of a movement or build a platform around it, even with a TV show. Like when we put a TV show out there, because we're involved in media, technology, housing, wellness, different sectors. I love the media. But even when we make a TV show, it's not just a TV show. We have to incorporate online learning content, like online learning platform, and build a presence around it, like create a movement around the TV show. That's been a mistake that the networks have made and other people in the entertainment industry have made, I feel, with their media assets. But that's our formula works, and we can monetize it better, and we get much more influence. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to get this from you guys, because I know how, like you said, with the transcendental meditation, and I know how deeply involved that Chad is in the spiritual movement. What are you guys doing in your personal life that is directly showing up in the business?
Everything. So, I mean, we have this, in fact, it's part of what we do is this level of bliss consciousness. So we support the people around us in getting to that level. I think one of the challenges with entrepreneurs, especially when you raise money, you feel beholden to other people that are investing in you. So you tend to become a martyr to your business. So your health, your health is sacrificed, your relationships, you're really hard on your workers, like there's all these things that are happening. And so we want to shift all that. So number one, we work very much on our relationships. We try to have a really happy, healthy relationship, have a, really very much grounded in, we meditate, we take care of ourselves physically, a lot of gratitude. We work out all the time, we do yoga. So we're trying to be the best people we can be. And then we look at all our work. We have different businesses. So every work environment has a different workplace initiative. Like in our tiny home company, these guys are awesome. Some are veterans, formerly incarcerated. They're great guys. So they do vision boards, journaling. They have a book club. They have a soccer team. And so every business has its own thing. And so we really believe in that. We want people to be happy and thriving where they are. So yeah, we take care of ourselves. We work in our relationship. We will not sacrifice our personal relationship to the business. And we know when to take, we take downtime, whenever we can. It looks like we're busy all the time, which we kind of are, but we do play a lot. So,
well, I know this, every time that I see you, you guys are always smiling ear to ear, and you're always happy, and you always have just this attractive, infectious personality. And
thank you. This is manic right now because it's been a crazy week, but so it's okay. But thank you.
So for people who are listening that are maybe just trying to make that first 7 figures, or maybe have just made, just starting to figure out what success feels like for them, what encouragement do you have for somebody who's like, man, I'm not nowhere near the level that you guys are, so I'm just trying to survive right now?
Yeah. So do something. Have something that you can offer people, whatever. And it's usually so simple. Like our greatest gifts, we overlook because it's so simple, right? Even if you have to talk to people to see, like, what are my gifts? Like, what do I have to offer? But figure out something to offer. And it may not be something you create or invent. It may be something that you love. Like you really feel like people, that's why network marketing, people don't have to invent something to be successful in network marketing. Just grab a product, but get your arms around something you believe in and make that offer to someone. And if somebody buys it, then get better at, then now you know you're, you know, like a few people buy what you have to offer, then it's just about scaling. That's all. It's about doing the things that you have to do to make better offers, to talk to more people, you know, just then you get into a rhythm. I mean, really, that making money is really easy. And don't make it hard, make it easy. It could be really easy. So you don't have to even set up your own business. Just have an offer of something. So I've made a lot of money over the years without having my own products. I have had my own products, but a lot of times I'll make six figures just offering other people's products and services, you know, even I get lazy sometimes. So, or, you know, that'll be some residual income. But the millions that are coming in is because we focused on something that worked. You know, I told you we took 17 orders those first 2 days in business. And then from there, we just scaled. We just stayed focused. Okay, we're on to something. Don't mess with it. Just keep scaling that part. And now we'll probably have like a $50 million valuation, I believe, this year. So it's pretty cool, you know, to get to that place. Worked our butts off, but it's fun and it becomes predictable after a while.
Awesome. So aside from the tiny homes, and is there anything that you have going on right now that people can participate in, that they can find? How can they get access to you and get into your world and be able to learn from you and follow what you're doing?
You know, I'm going to say, honestly, what do they say? The cobbler's kids have holes in their shoes. Yeah. So I have been so focused on building out, helping to build out the businesses that I've quieted myself. I have a lot of free things to offer. We have our own masterminds. We take people behind the curtain, especially around, capital. I have books coming out and all of that. So I would say if people go to maria360.com, maria360.com, and those are all our links, and really just opt in for my book or whatever. I pretty soon we'll be sharing, free ebooks and things like that, just to like give people, like we're really doing it, and when we share things, we just take people behind the curtain of like our real businesses and they enjoy that. It's like really happening. It's not just, well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And so pretty soon we'll be taking people more behind the curtain and sharing more and having events and doing all of that. So I would just say go to Maria 360 and just get into our world, and we'll let you know what's going on. So
perfect. That'll be in the show notes, but that's easy to remember. So go to Maria 360. You know the language. You go to Jim P 360 all the time, so you know how that works. And and just stay plugged in, stay tuned. I'm telling you, these are people that you want to know. These are people that you want to follow. Even if you can't connect with them right now, at some point when the opportunity presents itself, you want to be there in line. You want to be on the waiting list. You want to have access because you learn so much. And it's the same way that we like to teach around here. We're not just teaching you content we've learned. We're trying to share with you what we're actually doing inside of our business or with our clients, so you can learn directly from what we're doing and experiencing, from what's working and what isn't. So.
Yeah, awesome. And yes, we are definitely, we'll be doing more things together for sure. And I got to share my capital plan in the near future. We're going to start putting that out as well. I think people need to learn that.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Maria and I were talking just before we hit record, and she was talking about a capital plan as something that most people, she talks about it like it's normal vernacular. And what I recognize is when the first time I heard her talking about having a capital plan and a capital strategy, I recognized that I did not have one. And so I'm guessing you might not either. And so can you give a 30-second version of what a capital plan should include, so if somebody wants to start thinking about planning for one now?
Sure. So I think we all know about our sales and marketing plans in our business. I believe when you start a business, you should create a capital plan. It's like, what is it? You may not have the money right now, but you start thinking about how am I going to fund this business going forward? Because you may invest a little bit of your own, some of your own resources, but there's going to be a point where your demand starts exceeding your capacity in your business. It happens to pretty much every business. And unless you have unending resources, at some point, you're going to have to think about outside resources. And the hardest thing to do is to stop your momentum and go out and get the money in and do all that. So the best thing to do is right from the beginning, start planning how you're going to access those resources. And it's a lot easier to do it that way. And so it gets you thinking about money right away. And also it allows those solutions to start showing up in your life so you don't miss a beat as you're growing your business. So we will be putting more of that out there. The name of the book is The Money Hasn't Left the Planet, and I'm including my little blueprint for capital in there. It's really simple to do, but most people just haven't thought about that.
Amen. And that right there, that last 90 seconds is worth the price of admission alone, guys. So make sure you're thinking that through and get a capital plan in place. Make sure you reach out to us in the show notes. Let us know what you're thinking, how you're receiving these episodes, and let me know what your capital plan is. At least let us know that you're starting to put one together now as a result of hearing all of this. And as always, we thank you for taking the time to be with us, because you could literally be any place else. And thank you for trusting us to be part of your success team. Go out, change lives, make opportunities for yourself and for those around you, and be the difference maker. We appreciate your time. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Opportunity Makers. Head on over to gaintheedgenow.com to connect with Jim and his team. And remember, there's no such thing as limits or obstacles, only opportunities.